so the time is now 3:32 on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. I'd like to open the Board of Selectmen meeting. Joining us today is our Town Administrator, Bob Fennessy, our Assistant, Pam McSherry. Do we have the other folks online there, Bob, as well?
Yes, everybody's on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have Selectman Tom Pratt, Selectman Bill Smith, myself, the Chair, Selectman Jonathan Seelig, and we have a very somewhat short agenda today. Just two items to discuss. And first, I will start with I guess item A, which is.
Before you do you want me to read the statement of being on Zoom and chat?
Oh, yeah. Why don't you read? That'd be great, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, so this meeting has been posted in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20B, and pursuant to Chapter 30A, Section 20F. Notice is being made that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on Area 58 Community Access Channel. The board chair reasonably anticipates the following matters will be discussed and are voted on at this meeting, and agenda items may be taken out of the order for time management considerations.
Thank you, Bob, for that. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
And now let's jump down to A. We're going to review and approve an iceless skating rink contract with Funtown Entertainment, LLC, for the Holidays in Halifax event to be located in the Holmes Public Library parking lot. Again, I can't see who's here in the meeting. Do you guys know if Kim Campbell is here?
She is
She's
not.
not here, no.
Okay.
But
I can summarize it, or Bob, if you want to summarize it. I think most folks in Halifax now know about Holidays in Halifax. It is a tradition spanning 30 plus years. And this year, the committee wants to try something different. They're going to use a synthetic ice rink. I'm very excited about it. For those that want to know about it, it's similar to, if you've ever gone to Jordan's Furniture during their holiday celebration, they have a synthetic ice rink. So it'll be in that vein. And I'll be honest, the reason we're having this meeting today is because this item didn't get on the agenda for our last meeting. And I don't like to make a habit out of having meetings kind of out of the norm like this and during the middle of the day, because I do like to have folks have the opportunity to get there and to make it available. But in the essence of time, we had to lock down this vendor. So that's essentially why we're having this meeting today. I have looked over the contract. It makes sense to me. Is there anybody else from the board that would like to comment on the contract?
No, I'm good. The insurance provisions are covered for me, which is always my biggest concern. So good here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Bill, I don't know if you heard me. You're good with the contract as well?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. If that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract with Funtown Entertainment, LLC, for the synthetic rink for Holidays in Halifax.
And so
moved.
As the town administrator to sign.
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounded like Tom moved it and Bill was the second.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll have to do a roll call vote because this is an online meeting. I'll ask Bill.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
And myself as a yes. Passes unanimously 3-0.
Okay.
All right. Well,
And do we have to authorize Bob to sign the contract?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Good call. Good call. I'll entertain a motion to make Bob Fennessy the signing authority for said contract.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote. Bill Smith.
Yes.
Tom Pratt.
Yes.
Myself as a yes. That motion passes 3-0.
Okay.
Okay, now we will move down to B on our agenda. And we have a visitor today. His name is Michael Carroll. He is with Collins Engineering, and he is going to update us the status of the Senior Center building project and discussion of project designer selection process pursuant to Massachusetts procurement regulations. That is a mouthful, Mike. Just to give a little bit of background on this, whenever you have a large project like a town has here, like we're having with the senior center, the town brings in an OPM, an owners project manager, to oversee the operation And Mike and his company Colliers were the winners in that. So Mike's essentially the eyes and ears of the town of Halifax, keeping an eye on this project. And I hope I have a nice little introduction segue for you, Mike. I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, but I'll give you the floor here, Mike, and you can kind of fill us in on how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate the introduction. And just like you said, we're here to basically represent the owner's interest. One of the reasons why the state has actually required this is because you have a designer who, while they might be doing work for the owner, might not always have their ideas or their preferences perfectly in line with the design, with the owner. For example, they might be interested in winning awards, which is great if you can do it and stay within budget, if you will, things of that nature. Same with the contractor. The contractor's here to build a project for you, but they're not always, their goals are not always in alignment with you. So we're independent from both of those parties. We're here to help provide oversight, help provide expertise. To that point, we're talking a little bit about designer selection today. So through the Mass Public Procurement Office, they have requirements to do designer selection. It's actually managed under Chapter 30B typically. And we're also talking Chapter 7C today, which is specific to the requirements of that. And basically with the designer requirements that we're doing here is we submitted an RFQ back in September, and we solicited RFQ request for qualification. So it's a little different than an RFP or a request for bid in that you're not receiving a number at that time. We're actually receiving qualification. So designer selection is qualification based. So in other words, we want to find there's a lot of great designers out there, a lot of really good designers, but we want to find the best designer that's going to best fit with not only our project, but maybe our demographics, our people, and really going to deliver us the project that we really need. And so that's the first priority here, is to find somebody who's the most qualified. And in order to do that, we put out the RFQ. That RFQ, we got very good responses on it. We got 9 different submissions on that. When I met with the building committee last week, I mentioned, I don't know that I've ever gotten 9 design teams submitting on any project I've ever done. Usually we're happy if we get 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that range. So 9 was actually very encouraging that a lot of people looked at it. One of the things I will mention in the RFQ, we did identify the general scope of the project, the timeline of the project, and the budget on the project. And the fact that we have 9 different companies that were interested in it means that I think we had a general, like a consensus that we had the right scope and budget for this project. So we did do an evaluation of those RFQs, and we presented that to the building committee last week. From that meeting, they recommended a short list of 4. And what we're intending to do is have a interview process on Thursday of this week. It is open to the public. Anybody is welcome to come down and sit through that. We have basically 1-hour interviews with each of the 4 preferred vendors, if you will, the four best of the 9 that that the committee reviewed. After that meeting, after those interviews, we will have a meeting at which time, if the committee so desires, we will rank them again 1, 2, 3, 4 at that point, and potentially enter into negotiations with the lowest preferred vendor. The negotiations are going to be relatively short, I would believe, on this process, because we have provided the contract, and all 4 vendors took no exceptions to our contract. We have provided a not to exceed value on the overall cost. So we don't expect anybody to come in over that value. Certainly going to negotiate to see if we can maybe get it a little bit under that value, but it's a general rule of thumb of where we're at. So I know I just said a lot, but I certainly want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I can continue on if needed, but certainly open the floor here.
Oh, I think it's exciting, Mike, and I want to give you kudos and your props. I think since you've been brought along on this project, I feel really good about our position as a town with this going forward. And it's exciting. I mean, we've been waiting generations for this Council on Aging building. So with your eyes and ears kind of keeping things on the track and with our building and municipal building and school committee, I think we're heading in a good direction. I don't really have any follow-up questions. I didn't know if the board had anything they'd like to bring up.
Yeah, I had two things quickly. This is Tom. One, I thought I was on mute. I had to bring my daughter to the bathroom. So if you heard any of that, I apologize. I'm home, daddy daycare on Tuesday afternoons. And just Mike, just thank you for everything you've done. Just a clarification, the meeting time and place on Thursday, should we be interested?
So it's here in the select board room, and the first interview starts at 11 o'clock. And then we have a 15-minute break. The next one starts at 12:15 or 15. So it's basically 11 and then 12:15 and then 1:30 and then 2:45, followed by a building committee meeting at 4, I think.
Right there, yeah.
4 o'clock, 2:45, yeah, 4 o'clock for the discussion. So it really 11 to 5, say 11 to 4:30, somewhere in that range.
This Thursday.
This Thursday, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
And if I may, so this is Bob Fennessy. There were some questions and concerns at the select board meeting about whether they can take 2 of the finalists and then decide, or is it the building committee that does the final decision on which one to negotiate with?
So we have done a little bit of review on this, and I believe that the building committee, I'm going to say, is technically like a subcommittee or an appointed committee from the select board, is my understanding. Mm-hmm. And their duties are to manage these projects. So so I guess the short answer is I believe the school building committee, as a permanent building committee, is the entity that would vote on this. That being said, I don't see any harm if we brought this forward to the select board for them to understand where we're at as an acknowledgement of what the school of the building committee did. But typically, they're going to rank them 1 through 4, and this is where we come back to the mass procurement. The procurement laws are pretty specific, but they don't want us to necessarily give it to just the low guy because they're the low guy. They want us to give it to the best qualified guy and negotiate with that person. So that's really the way that the statute is written. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but the way the statute is written is that we're supposed to rank them, which we already have, 1 through 4, interview. And the statute actually says you can do an interview, you can have a written proposal, which we've already kind of done, or you can have a design competition. And I've never had anybody do a design competition or do a second written. It's always an interview. Now, if the committee, after the first round of interviews, felt they needed a second round of interviews, you could, but I think you would have to do all 4 again. It wouldn't just be taking the 4 down to 2, say. And but ultimately, after the interviews, we re-rank them 1 through 4, and then you negotiate with the lowest, the most qualified vendor, if you will. The good news is if we can't come to an agreement with that one, we have the option to go to the second. If we couldn't come to an agreement with them, we could go to the third and then the fourth year. So the provisions don't lock you in that you have to go with that lowest guy, no matter what the value is. They have to be willing to sign your contract and within your terms as well.
And clearly the select board would vote on the contract itself to sign the contract.
Typically, they don't have to. Typically, it's the contract. I think we reviewed with the I think through your office, Bob, prior to it going into the RFQ, and it was accepted. Again, having everybody review it and support it is always a good thing. But typically, I think the board, the school building committee, has the authority to select the vendor, if you will. Mm-hmm. Nobody on that board actually has the authority to sign. Typically, it's the town administrator that has the authority to sign on behalf of the town, or here's the select board.
So unless they authorize.
Yeah.
That was my question. If they had any authority to sign any contracts.
Yeah, so no, typically, and this is, I'll say kind of a general rule of thumb that I work with many districts on multiple municipal buildings, school buildings, things of that nature. And even on a school building where it might be a school department that appoints the building committee, in that case, the town administrator is still typically the assigning authority. So basically, it's going to be the building committee making a recommendation for Bob to enter into that, or to execute that contract based off of, this value in these terms. And if there's some sort of action that the select board would want to take, I think a ratification or support of that would certainly be a good thing. If there's any sort of need to authorize Bob to sign, then we would ask for that to be able to be done.
And can you hear me, guys?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Okay. And the more I was thinking of this after our meeting, we discussed this briefly at our last meeting about signing authority and bringing candidates. And I think for me, what it boils down to is we appointed these guys to do this job. I mean, this is one of the biggest charges of being on that committee is handling this process. So much like we put folks on Concom, to make decisions on Concom, or we put folks on ZBA to make ZBA decisions, I think that's kind of why they're there. And again, obviously, we as selectmen have appointing authority, so that's kind of how we can steer that committee. But I do think it's kind of in their realm to make their recommendations, to listen to all the presentations, make an educated recommendation. There are folks in the industry that are on that board that have, much more experience than I have. So to me, it makes sense for us as a board to lean on that committee for their insights and their experiences, to listen to all of those presentations and to put a rank list together for us to take a look at.
Just a quick follow-up. This is Tom. So Mike, you said that you ranked them, 1 through 4 in descending order, and if 1 doesn't take the deal, then 2. And is there anything binding the town where we're having 4 people in on Thursday to get all the way down to number 4, or is this a situation where if we kind of have, 1 and 2 are our preferred, we can stop?
So
if it gets to the point.
The way it works is you negotiate with number 1. You get to a point where either you agree or you agree to not agree, and then your negotiations with number 1 is over. Then you go to number 2. So once you agree, you stop.
Okay, and so if in the mind of the building and school committee and yourself and everybody else who's ranking these people, we get to number 2, there's a dramatic drop off before we get to 3, and obviously I don't know who the players are. Are we under any obligation to continue to number 3, or can we put it back out at that point if we don't come to agreement with number 1 and number 2, as an example?
You always have the option to reject all and cancel the project, reject all, and go back out to bid. Obviously, I'm not saying you should cancel the project, but it's always like you have that option with the way the RFQ is written and with the way mass procurement is written. So you're never committed until you've signed the contract.
And I will say too, this is my first go around with the construction of a municipal building as a selectman. The meeting is open to the public, so I do plan on joining for the meeting just to do a heavy dose of listening and watching and to try to educate myself as this is my first go around. So I'm looking forward to Thursday and to seeing what all 4 candidates are bringing to the table.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Now, out of the 4 candidates, if one of them is not chosen, can they appeal to the state that it wasn't a fair selection process?
So typically, I would never say no that they can't, but the appeal would be pretty difficult because I think if somebody was rejected, like we said, hey, you're not qualified to even be on the list, or you didn't make your submission was incorrectly submit. Like, hey, it had to be in by 2:00 and it came in at 3:00 on that day. They might try to appeal in that situation. I will be honest with you. I think we have 9 strong candidates, and honestly, it wasn't an easy decision to get it down to 4. I would say any one of the four can certainly do this project and probably do a very good job in doing this project. So like I think to Tom, your question earlier, we're not worried that, we have two really good ones and maybe two really bad ones. We have four really good candidates. So like we're choosing from four great candidates. Like, that's where I'm going to say, I'll go as far as to say that. So like we're choosing from the best of the best, which is a great position to be in.
All right. Do we have any other questions at all for Mike or Mike? Again, this was very informative, especially with a board of selectmen that, again, all three of us are going through this process for the first time. You've been fantastic. You've explained things very easily understood and easy to grasp. I feel really confident with you kind of as the point man and kind of leading our municipal building and school committee through this process. And again, I'm really, really excited to get this ball rolling because I think it's going to be a feather in the cap for the town of Halifax. I'm really excited.
Excellent. I look forward to it as well. I'm excited to get the designer on board and let us see where we can get to.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mike before we let him go?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, on that note, I guess if there's anything else for the board to bring up before we adjourn.
Not on my end, no.
No.
No?
Okay.
No.
Okay. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. We need Bill Smith,
Yes.
Tom Pratt,
Yes.
myself, Jonathan Seelig is a yes. The Board of Selectmen meeting is concluded at 3:54 p.m. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.